Deep below the majestic tower that is Mage Pagoda, cavernous mines are continuously dug out by muscular creatures. While all races are welcome to prove their mettle in the subterranean depths, it is the dwarves of Aetheria, the main continent of the world Aetheria, that most populate the tunnels. One such dwarf pummels the stone with his pickaxe, creating a symphony that echoes throughout the cavern. Therion Glimmerstone had lived from his youth in the bowels of the earth. His beard had never known a week without dust and crumbling stones seeping in between its wiry strands. A smile could be seen on the middle-aged dwarf's face. Therion enjoyed his task, and below Mage Pagoda, vast deposits of nickel, copper, tin, silver, and gold made his work incredibly profitable. The mages of the tower above had granted the miners a contract that benefited both sides. Most of the profits went to the men and women who dug the earth, and a tithe went to the pagoda as owners of the land. As he dug, Therion thought of the ale he'd drink when his work for the day was finished. While it was true that dwarves loved to dig, it was also true that it was their second love. The first is strong drink. As his pickaxe shattered the stone before him, he felt it touch upon something. A smile tore across his features. He'd found profit as his day was ending. A few more strikes tore the surrounding stone, and soon his eyes widened in surprise. He'd uncovered a translucent white jewel. It wasn't rare for the miners to discover jewels in the mines, but this one was an aberration. The size of his head, beard and all, the uncut gem made his breath catch. It was unlike any jewel he'd seen before. The etheric mana seemed to drip from the item in wispy strands like sweat falling from a cold metal mug of beer. It was beautiful. Therion looked from the gemstone to the cavern behind him. Dwarves were only mortal, and greed was just a part of their nature, as it was for any human. The thought of taking the underground crystal for himself and leaving the mines and Mage Pagoda stirred in him a corrupt sentiment. What am I thinking? Therion asked himself. He may not be a pure and noble soul, but to steal from his brethren wouldn't sit right with him were he to buy a castle and live his days in luxury. Greta! He bellowed. The foreman of the mine heard his voice echo throughout the tunnels. After a short time, a resentful voice bellowed back. Therion, you better have broken your leg if you're calling this close to the end of the shift. Therion didn't concern himself with the angry words. Shut up and get your ass down here. A silence followed, but soon a figure plodded down the tunnel Therion had excavated. What is it? Greta asked, clearly unhappy as she approached. Look for yourself. The female dwarf pushed Therion aside roughly, only to freeze in place as her eyes locked onto the crystal. What the hell is that? Therion shrugged. I don't know. I've never seen a gem like it. Look at the pool of mana below it. I'm looking, but I don't understand. Greta reached out to touch the jewel and let out a yelp as the etheric mana left the gem to enter her body. Therion couldn't help but chuckle at the sight, earning him a bitter look from his foreman. Whatever it is, the mages of the tower will know what to do with it, Greta said. Then a greedy smile claimed her face. Something this rare will be worth quite a bit to those scholars. I'll make quite the commission off of this. Therion's lips twitched, and he coughed. Greta turned from the gem to him and noticed his expression. Yeah, you'll get your cut. Even for her words, Therion couldn't help but feel a little bitter. His cut would be far less than hers. Still, it would be enough to buy him many ales in the months to come. Take it to the collections, the foreman said. When you're done, you can end your shift. Therion nodded and watched as Greta turned and walked out of the tunnel the way she'd come. The male dwarf thought for a minute before pulling his mining cart up to the gemstone and knocking it into the cart. The return to the surface was taxing with the underground crystal in addition to the ores he had mined, but soon Therion broke the surface and found his way to the collection depot. He made it certain that his acquisition was notarized and left the mines to enter the ground floor of the Mage Pagoda. Mages are mystical beings that defy common understanding. The tower only appeared to be a dozen or so stories tall from the outside, but inside it was a complex weave of countless floors and vast rooms. Of course, there was only one place Therion cared to go after a long day of work. Therion found his pub, and soon downed his first ale, followed by a second and a third. He smiled ruefully, thinking about the fortune he'd lost, but was content to enjoy a good ale with good friends, and savored the idea of returning to work he loved on the morrow. While Therion enjoyed his drink, word reached the Council of Mage Pagoda. The enigma of the underground crystal stirred contention among them as some realized the significance of the item, while others thought little of a gem found in the mines.